ladies and gentlemen, attack helicopters, Lego trains, well, however you identify. Thanks for joining me once again. We're dealing with recidivist offenders. We're dealing with people here who have become very, very successful in what they do, but not for reasons that someone should become successful. Gillian Michaels we're dealing with today. Again, Jillian is famous for shouting at fat people on a ridiculous television program that fails completely to help people long-term with their health challenges of being obese, basically. The Biggest Loser is what we're talking about. Jillian was one of the biggest winners out of The Biggest Loser in terms of her bottom right-hand corner, her bank balance. But in terms of any credibility that she has derived as an actually knowledgeable and credible professional in the field of human nutrition in particular, I'm afraid she gets a big fat zero. And once again today, she is heading us in the direction of pointing to her many flaws and foibles in terms of her ability to communicate effectively about anything. So here she is saying calories in, calories out, though. Off you go, Jillian.
All right, guys. Welcome to my office. Literally, you're with me in my office. Hopefully, I won't ramble on too long because I'm doing this on my iPhone. Nobody's going to be cutting this one up for me.
I'll cut it up for you, Jilly. I'll slash it up good.
I want to talk to you guys today about the mathematics of weight loss.
Excellent. Mathematics, that would indicate that you're going to talk to us about some sums of some kind, some numbers. That's what mathematics is, Jillian. It's based on numbers, and that will need to be underpinned by some logic and some common sense of some kind. I wonder if you've got any of that you're going to display for us here in this video today. Spoiler, boys and girls. Right, okay, good. So, wow us with your mathematical abilities there, Jilly.
So, you guys hear me talk a lot about how weight loss is a simple science.
Okay, well, there's your first couple of mistakes right there, Jillian. Number one, I presume what you're talking about there is fat loss, which is not the same thing as weight loss. Weight you can lose in all sorts of different ways because there are all sorts of different compartments within your body in terms of the weight component of your body. For example, water. Water is the biggest component of your weight, Jillian. Okay, so you want to lose a lot of weight, you can do that by dehydrating yourself very, very seriously. You can lose a lot of weight dehydrating yourself very, very quickly, actually. That's not a good idea, though. You could lose weight by having all four limbs surgically removed from your body, Jillian. You could do that. They contribute quite a bit of weight to your body. We can chop those off for you. That'll take some of the weight off you. So what I'm getting at here is when you want to talk about science, one of the things that we actual scientists, Jillian, what we actually do is we operationally define things before we get going. And we call a spade, those of us that actually do real science. Okay? And if you want to talk to somebody about their fat loss, then talk to them about fat loss, not weight loss. Okay, so you're saying weight loss when it's clear that you mean fat loss, and then you're using science in the same sentence when it's clear to me that you have no underpinning knowledge or understanding of science whatsoever. And you're about to actually confirm that very clearly as well, of course, with your next few minutes of commentary on the so-called science as you see it. So let's hear that.
Right. And here is what I mean by that. I want you to understand that fat is...
Say the fat. Well, why didn't you say fat in the first place if that's what you were talking about?
Simply stored energy.
Well, it's a bit more than that, but okay, yes, there is energy stored on your body in the form of fat, yes.
Okay. And the calories, right?
There's your next mistake right there. Calories are heat, Jillian. They are a measurement of heat energy, specifically, explicitly, and not interchangeably in the human body. Human beings do not absorb, encapsulate, and transmute heat energy into other forms of energy and use that for metabolic process. Ergo, we do not consume and use calories. Okay?
If you're in another part of the world, the kilojoules.
Kilojoules is just another way of working out a metric on the concept of energy, which kind of has a really strange and sort of circular, non-scientific definition, really. Energy is typically thought about as the capacity to do work, and work is typically defined as a certain force applied over a certain distance. And a force is a thing that requires energy to require. So it's a circular, self-serving argument. There's no actual science involved there. It's quite a complex, quite a fascinating area, actually. If you want to actually get into some actual science, you'll see that what you're presenting here as a fait accompli and an absolute, Gillian, is actually nothing of the sort.
In your food are units of energy, okay? If we eat more energy, then we burn.
We don't burn any energy, Gillian. Burning something is oxidizing it rapidly without control. That's not what we do with our food. Okay?
In a day, we will store that energy as fat.
What you're meaning there is the so-called expenditure of so-called energy over time, as that relates to the actual, in practice, intake of energy within the foods that we have consumed, which is not in the form of calories, Gillian. Kilojoules isn't much better either for various reasons around the way a kilojoule is calculated. Okay?
So, really, if you look at something called the law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, I have very, very carefully, Gillian, over multiple decades, and it's absolutely clear to me that you have not done any such thing. For example, you said the law of thermodynamics. There are actually 4 laws of thermodynamics, Gillian, not one. Which one are you talking about? And would you like to, if I rang you on the telephone right now, if I had your phone number, Gillian, and I phoned you up right now and said, quote the law of thermodynamics to me, the law, after you've determined which of the 4 laws you're talking about here, could you quote the thing for me, word for word, actually symbol for symbol, because the law is actually a mathematical formulation, Gillian? And then could you explain to me what it actually means? You're going to make an attempt right now. Spoiler, does she understand the law of thermodynamics, boys and girls? No, she doesn't. Okay, off you go, Gillian. Let's hear it.
It's a fancy way of saying that energy isn't created or destroyed in a vacuum. Now,
not really. That's a very parsimonious bastardization of what the law actually does say. But if I was just to say, okay, fine, fuck it, have that, Gillian, let's use your definition. My next question to you would be, how do you think in the purple fuck that applies to a human being?
Now, if we're looking at calories as energy, right?
Why would you do that? Calories are heat energy, and human beings don't encapsulate heat and use that for metabolic process. There is no way, no mechanism for a human body to gain energy by absorbing heat in any significant amount for utility for metabolic process in any way, shape, or form, Gillian.
They don't just magically appear in our bodies. We've got to eat too much. End of story.
No, that's not the end of the story, Gillian, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that plays into the fat carriage, because that's what we're talking about, fat, the storage of fat on a person's body, like hormones, the endocrine system and its functioning, interactions with circadian cycles and rhythms, diurnal rhythms, all sorts of things play into whether a person stores energy as fat or whether they strip fat off their bodies and consume that for energetic process. How much food you eat is not the end of the story, Gillian. Not remotely at all. That is false. Demonstrably false. Absolutely false. Completely False. Wrong, Gillian.
To eat too much, more than you're burning off in a day.
Yeah, you're not burning. We've covered that.
And you will store that excess energy as fat.
Not necessarily, Gillian. I've just covered the reasons why that's not necessarily so whatsoever at all, in fact.
Right? So
No, wrong, Gillian. Wrong. Completely wrong. Just saying this is how it is doesn't make it so. It fucking isn't so.
in order to lose weight, you got to eat less.
No, Gillian. Not necessarily. Again, you can lose weight by dehydrating yourself, and you can lose weight by surgically removing parts of your body, Gillian. Those things weigh. Get those things out of or off your body, and it will weigh less. You're talking about fat, in which case say that. Say I'm talking about fat, and you're still wrong. Because of all the reasons I've already spoken about, okay?
You got to move more. Now,
Also, eat less and move more. That's Gillian Michaels' advice to people on how to lose weight, by which we know she means fat. Well, that's wrong, Gillian. It's false. Completely false. And inane in the extreme. Stupid. Unbelievably stupid. It shows a total lack of understanding of biological process in human beings. Just unacceptable.
Quality of your food is a separate conversation.
No, it isn't. It's absolutely inextricably linked to how your body will respond to the food that you put in it, Gillian, in terms of fat carriage or not, muscularity or not, bone mineral density or not, and all sorts of other aspects of health or not. It is not a separate conversation. Wrong.
It's a conversation that pertains to your health, okay? But when we're just talking about stored energy, and
No, we're not. You're talking about weight, by which you mean fat. And one of the things that fat contains is energy. But you clearly don't even understand that.
we can have different debates about how quickly you'll burn calories based on the foods.
You won't burn calories because how do you burn heat? Calories, heat, are the result of burning things. How do you burn heat? How do you burn the result of burning something? That's ridiculous, Gillian.
You eat, but ultimately, calories in, calories out.
Wrong. Calories in, calories out is demonstrably false, has been shown to be false time and time again. This is just beyond laughable.
You might be saying, doesn't work. I've counted calories for years. I've tried it. It doesn't work. Well, I'm going to show you why you think that.
Oh, you did it wrong, and you never really were a calorie counter. Hand your card in.
A little bit of math. Okay, so
A little bit of math. Good. Let's have some math. There's an S on the end of the word, by the way. It's maths. When you abbreviate mathematics, the abbreviation is maths, not math. Okay?
with me. Let's say, I'm going to get out my pen and my paper here.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Okay. So let's
Better take notes, boys and girls. Some maths coming.
say that I am Peggy Sue.
You're not Piggy Sue, though.
I'm just going
So
to
why would we say that? Because you're not.
write it on my FedEx envelope. Peggy Sue is 40 years old, right? And we go online, we Google BMR calculator. BMR.
Why in the purple fuck would you do that? For what possible reason would you go online and look for a BMR calculator? They do not calculate anything. They make a loose estimate based on normative values, which is so far from accurate that it's laughable for any given human being. The variation around what a BMR calculator will tell you is just it's ridiculous. It's beyond a joke. These things have no utility whatsoever. What's next?
BMR is basal metabolic rate. Think of it like this. If Betty Sue sat, was that what we named her, Betty Sue? If she sat on
So she can't even remember what she called herself.
the couch all day long and did absolutely nothing, right? How much energy would it take for her to breathe, for her hair to grow, for her organs to do their job and all?
Well, the only way to know that with regard to any given individual person is to fucking measure it in a laboratory. Okay? You can't do it by using an online calculator that will give you a number based on population normative values. Will not work.
All that stuff, right? So go online. I want you to do that. And I want you to Google BMR calculator, and you're going to enter some basic information, your age, your weight, your height. And we're going to take...
Yeah, and from all of that, your age, your weight, and your height, somehow this thing purports to be able to tell you what your individual basal metabolic rate is. Are we done here, Gillian? Are we finished with this? You're not, clearly. Why aren't you finished with this? Why aren't you done with this? Oh, that's right. It's because you don't have the first fucking clue of what you're talking about.
Take my little person, and we'll say she's 40 years old.
You said that.
She's probably got a BMR maybe of 1,400 calories.
Yeah, and maybe not. And maybe not. That's the whole point here, Gillian. Very unlikely that she will have such a basal metabolic rate. In fact, actually.
Let's be generous, okay? So,
how is that generous? That's just a number you've pulled out of your ass, Gillian.
Betty Sue burns 1,400 calories if she did nothing.
No, she doesn't burn any calories at all. Calories are heat, and you can't burn heat.
All day long, right? That's going to be her BMR.
What, because you say so? Or because some calculator says so? Because she's 40 and has a certain height and weight? Brilliant.
Now, she doesn't do nothing all day long, hopefully. She's doing something. We're not going to take into account fitness yet. So let's say there are 4 levels of activity. Level 1.
All right. So now we're gonna devolve activity down to one of 4 gears and completely ignore the fact that one's activity level is a continuous variable. Good. So there's your next source of vast, huge, enormous error. Let's also keep very cognizant of the fact that people vastly, grossly overestimate what their activity level is when they're asked to record it. Okay?
You're totally sedentary all day long, okay? Level 2, maybe you work at a clothing store and you're on your feet all day long, but you're not crazy physical. Level 3, you're a trainer. You're demoing exercises, you're hoisting weights all day long, you're pretty darn physical. Level 4, maybe you're a construction worker. You're super physical. So pick your level. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4.
Fucking ridiculous. What's next?
For the sake of my example, I'm going to say Betty Sue, she's a level 2. So you're going to take your level and you're going to put a 1 point in front of it. So if she's a 2, we're going to say 1.2, okay? So 1.2. That's what Betty Sue's activity level is going to be. This is going to give us a rough idea of her AMR. What's called.
No, it isn't. Not even rough. It's going to be so wildly, vastly inaccurate, it's laughable. As is everything that comes out of your ridiculous fucking mouth, Jillian.
Active metabolic rate. So how many calories she burns over the course of one day.
Thermodynamics, though, says Jillian. Which law, Jillian? Which one? Of the 4 laws of thermodynamics, which one? Quote the thing for me. Let's go. No? Yeah, let's just say thermodynamics, though, to make it sound like we know what we're talking about. And oh, who would challenge that? Oh, thermodynamics, though, because Gillian said so. She must know about science. Good.
Right? So it's not going to be that much. It's going to bring her 1,400 times 1.2. It's going to bring her somewhere to just around 1,700 calories in a day. Okay? So Betty Sue's not working out. She's burning 1,700 calories in the
it's still not. No, you still can't burn heat.
course of her day. By the way, this is a pencil, not a pen, and it's not doing a heck of a great job of...
You get your shit together before you start recording, Gillian, perhaps.
illustrating my math.
Like, actually read the fucking laws of thermodynamics before you start talking about them, maybe, and make sure you have a pen that works. But first, make sure you understand what the laws of thermodynamics are, what they say and what they fucking don't say, Gillian, where they apply and where they don't, and then come back to me and explain to me how the laws of thermodynamics apply to a free-living human being in an open thermodynamic system, i.e. the universe. Okay? That'll be an interesting discussion once you've spent the next 6 months actually studying it, because it takes quite a while to understand thermodynamics. Just saying thermodynamics, though, on a video doesn't actually make you an expert in it. Okay?
When I turn my FedEx envelope around. All right. So here we go. We've got AMR, active metabolic rate, 1700. I wonder if that'll
Because you wrote 1700 on an envelope. Okay,
be backwards when you look
I
at
could write 1700 on an envelope too. Does that mean that's what my AMR is?
it.
See, I spent like more than 2 decades working, among other places, in laboratories that actually measured this kind of stuff scientifically in actual people, Jillian. Quite accurately, actually. You're writing things on the back of an envelope on the basis of God knows what. Some calculator that gives you an average value that's so far from reality it's laughable. Thermodynamics, though.
Now, a pound is 3,500 calories, okay?
No, it isn't, because calories are heat. Heat doesn't weigh anything. Heat is made of photons. Photons are massless, Jillian. Okay? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
So we need to burn 3,500 calories more than we
How do you burn heat? We've covered this, haven't we, boys and girls? You can't burn heat, and it also doesn't weigh anything.
consume to get a pound off of our body. Give or take, but it's pretty darn accurate. Okay?
No, it isn't, Jillian. That's the whole point of my criticism of your ridiculous, rancid, postulous garbage here. That's not reasonably accurate at all. No.
Okay. All right. Now, I go on a diet. In this case, meaning I literally just restrict the amount of food I'm eating. And let's say I go bananas. And
Bananas?
I go as low as 1,200 calories, okay? Which is pretty low. 1,200 calories, you're going to be like, holy mother, I
1,200 heat units.
had friggin' air souffle for lunch. I had a speck of dust and a stem of broccoli for a snack. I mean, it's like you're hungry. It's very low calories, okay?
That's a very fucking stupid thing to do, isn't it, then, Gillian? Very fucking stupid. When you could have eaten to complete satiety on a species-appropriate, species-specific diet, and that would have set your hormonal and endocrine systems on the right path. Do it for long enough, consistently enough, and you'll find that a person's fat will normalize to what's genetically appropriate for that individual, and that will be very, very low fat situation in terms of stored fat on the body. We are not genetically predisposed to being obese. You have to really work hard at being obese to achieve it, and the way to do that is to follow the advice of cocksplats like people who say thermodynamics, though, without knowing how many laws there are or what any of them say, and who like to write numbers on the back of envelopes with pencils because I don't know why. Oh, that's right, for views and for clicks and stuff and for notoriety. Right, what's next?
Okay, so we're going to put her all the way down to 1,200, which is the absolute floor. It's virtually impossible to do. It's very hard to do.
No, it isn't. It's very, very easy to eat insufficient food. It's not difficult at all. That doesn't mean you should do it. There are times when fasting is indicated, of course, but you would need to talk to someone who's actually competent and appropriately qualified to speak to you about human nutrition, to coach you through such a situation. Someone like myself, not someone like Jillian here, who doesn't have the first clue. Thermodynamics, though, she said. The law of thermodynamics. Great, which one?
Okay, now, we put Betty Sue at 1,200 calories.
You've said that about 5 times already, Jillian. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I'm repeating the corrections to your errors that you are repeating. Do you not even have a plan here?
Dokie. And this is being generous.
You've said that too. And what the fuck does that mean, Jillian? Generous. What is that?
Right? Let's see, the average person.
Define. Who is the average person, and what is the spread of data around this average value for whatever variable it is that we're talking about? How's that been defined? Because we're doing science here and we're doing maths, aren't we, Jillian? Maths based on actual logic.
Actually, I'm going to be more fair. I want to say she's consuming 1,400 calories because that's far more realistic and that's going to illustrate your struggle with calorie counting. So let's say she's eating 1,400 calories a day, okay? 1,700 minus 1,400 means without exercise, she's only burning 300 calories in a day.
She's not burning any calories whatsoever because calories are heat and cannot be fucking burned, Jillian.
At that rate, it will take her something around 10, 11, 12 days to lose 1 pound.
Well, no, you can't make that prediction, Gillian. That's the whole point of this video. Because what happens to the fat carriage on her body will depend on what her hormonal and endocrine systems are doing, diurnal rhythms, all sorts of other things that play into how someone's body responds as a whole organism in the real world, in the open system of the universe, to food inputs. Okay? And some farcical measurement of heat energy and some ridiculous guesstimate of how much actual energy is being consumed in a day based on some online calculator is not going to get anywhere fucking near it, is it, Jillian? That's the problem with calorie counting. The only way to get a predictable result out of so-called calorie restriction is to restrict your so-called calorie intake so vastly that it's unhealthy and is counterproductive to do so and is not sustainable. This is not an approach that anyone should use to attempt to have an effect on their body composition. This is fucking ridiculous. Okay?
Now, Betty Sue gets on the scale and she's like, what the hell? I'm not losing any weight. I don't understand. This isn't working.
Well, for a start, maybe her water balance changed quite a bit. Okay, because the scale doesn't know how the weight's made up. It doesn't know how much of it's water. Doesn't know how much of it's fat or muscle or bone or whatever else. A weighing scale, a biometric impedance scale has some idea, but not a very good one, frankly. If she's just looking at her weight, that's mistake number, I don't know how many we're even up to now, Jillian. Huge mistake. And if you're her trainer, it's your fault because you've led her up the garden path here. You have failed to educate your client remotely, acceptably, about what the goal is here. For a start, your client should never, ever, under any circumstances, stand on a weighing scale. Ever. Buffoon.
Working. I'm starving. Here's what she's not acknowledging. Number one, she's no longer gaining weight. So that goes out the window. You forget that she's been gradually gaining weight from eating more than she's burning. That stopped.
She's not burning.
But she doesn't realize that, doesn't think about it to celebrate it. She wants that scale to go down, right?
Because you haven't educated your client appropriately. You haven't made a deal with your client. And that is, if your client tells you at any time whatsoever during the period that they are your client, that they have stood on a scale and looked at the numbers on that scale, we're done. You are dropping that person as a client. They are fired. They are not to stand on a scale, ever, under any circumstances. That is your failure, Jillian. Your failure. Not hers, yours.
So it's no longer going up. Not only is it no longer going up, it's very slowly going backwards, but not fast enough for her to see it. Let's say 10 days from now, Betty Sue goes to get on the scale, but she had a dinner that's high in sodium the night before, or it could be that time of the month, she's holding water.
Oh, right. So the hormonal system, endocrine system, water balance, all of those things do play into someone's weight, do they, Jillian? Uh-huh.
Not only does she not see the scale go down, she might see it go up a pound from water weight, and she flips out. Calorie counting doesn't work. I can't lose weight. I give up. I'm over it. This goes on for a month.
Right. Well, again, Jillian, who has failed here? Has your client failed or have you failed? Because you want to write numbers on an envelope and say thermodynamics, though. And talk about weight when that's fucking irrelevant to body composition, pretty much.
Maybe she sees it go down 1 or 2 pounds and she is done. She is pissed. All right. Here's the key. We've got to get the calories burned.
How do you burn heat, Jillian? Heat is what happens when you burn something. How do you then burn the heat that resulted from burning something? Please explain with your mathematical abilities, oh great scientist. Fucking ridiculous.
higher in order to accelerate her weight loss.
Fat loss is what we're after, Jillian, not weight loss.
So she can see it and feel like it's working. How do you do that?
Number one, make a deal with your client. If you tell me at any stage during our period of working together that you have stood on a scale and read it, we are done. You are fired as a client, and I'm dropping you immediately. It's in the contract. You are not to stand on a scale, ever.
Exercise. This is why weight loss, in large part, is going to be exercise, because that's what's going to get your calories burned.
Oh, you fucking moron. You absolute cocksplat. No, Jillian. Now you're going to tell someone to do a bunch of probably moderate intensity so-called aerobic exercise, I imagine. All that's going to do is counteract anything you're trying to achieve in terms of so-called weight or fat loss, actually. It's the worst advice possible.
Up. You can't starve the weight off. You can't. You'll do a ton of damage to your body. You got to eat a reasonable amount, right? Because we don't want to just go crazy with the food and counteract the exercise. But you got to do both. And predominantly to lose, it's going to be exercise.
False. Probably 80-85% of the battle in terms of maintaining your body composition at genetically ideal, species appropriate levels for a human being is in maintaining a diet which is made up correctly. Probably 12 or 13 of the remaining 15% or so of the battle is the genes that you're blessed with, because everyone's slightly different. The final 1 or 2% is exercise, Jillian. Now, I say that with my exercise physiologist's hat on, because I was an exercise physiologist first and foremost, actually, Jillian, before I was an expert in also human nutrition, cardiovascular pathophysiology, and pure and applied statistics and statistical inference as my really 4 major areas of expertise in the sciences. Okay? So, what I can tell you is that the benefits of an appropriately planned and appropriately executed exercise program are huge. There are great benefits in that. However, if you have to exercise to control your body composition, then your diet is wrong. Those are the facts. What's next?
So, okay, now we're going to work out for 30 minutes a day. And let's say she burns 10 calories a minute. She's going hard and she gets a little afterburn effect, right? Which is an elevated metabolic rate.
How would that affect her appetite, Jillian?
Story with regard to why that happens, but just trust me, it does. And
yeah, also just trust me, what happens to her appetite in that circumstance because of the body's desire to maintain homeostasis and to have a level of hysteresis about the set points on everything.
Call it afterburn, the afterburn effect. All right. So she's now getting another 400 to 500 calories burned a day.
No, she's not, because calories still can't be burned. They're still a measurement of heat energy and nothing else.
We've taken that number of 1,700 and we brought her to 2,300 calories she's burning in a day.
No, she's not still.
She's eating 1,400 calories a day. That means she's burning 900 a day.
No, it doesn't mean anything of the sort. False. You forgot, well, basically everything, Jillian. Nothing you've said there is correct at all.
Right? Do the math.
The maths, okay? Maths needs to be underpinned by logic, and nothing you have said here in this video is underpinned by anything remotely similar to logic. Sorry about that.
In 3.5 days, she should lose 1 pound.
Again, you've forgotten all those other things that are not related to the amount of heat units, so-called, consumed in the diet, like the hormonal system, the endocrine system, diurnal variations of all kinds, that kind of stuff, time of the month. There's a thing you mentioned there as well. That's very important. I know that's covered under hormonal, but it needs its own special mention, of course. No, Gillian, just rubbish. Complete fucking rubbish from you.
So she's pretty darn close to 2 pounds a week. So you see, calorie counting does work.
No, it fucking doesn't, Gillian. Because, well, rewind the video to the... If you don't understand what I've said and why I've said it, rewind this video to the beginning and start again, boys and girls. Because it's quite fucking straightforward. Okay? No, calorie counting does not work. It's not even possible. Do you realise, for a start, Gillian, that the amount of calories listed on labels on foodstuffs is allowed by law to be out by 20%? Did you know that? That's before we even talk about the impossibilities of actually accurately measuring or gauging the actual effect of energy being intaken by a given individual human being when they consume a given bolus of foodstuffs. It cannot be done accurately, remotely accurately enough, Gillian, to actually achieve a meaningful goal without vastly grossly under-eating, which is contraindicated. This is not the way to manage your body composition. The way to manage your body composition is to eat to full and complete satiety once a day, a diet consisting of the muscle meat and associated fat of large ruminant animals with additional fat in the form of something like butter or extra lard, extra tallow, whatever, something like that. That is what you do. No plant material of any kind, no carbohydrates, not 1 gram ever. That will manage your body composition. Without doing 30 minutes a day of hunger-inducing, moderate intensity exercise that will actually only work against your so-called weight loss, Gillian. Okay, what's next?
But in order for you to see the results at the rate you want, you have to exercise.
No, you don't. You can manage your body composition without exercising at all. False again, Gillian.
To boost your calories out.
No, false. What will that do to your appetite? What will that do to your endocrine system, your hormonal systems? What will it do to your body's sense of homeostasis and hysteresis? What happens, Gillian? How do people free living in the world behave under those circumstances? And what happens to their weight over time? Well, let's have a look, Gillian, at the results long-term from all of your so-called clients from your days as the biggest loser shouting at fatties person. How many of those people have had long-term success in managing their body composition using your principles, Gillian? None of them. You're a disgrace. You're an absolute fucking disgrace. And it's because you imagine yourself for some reason to be competent in an area that you absolutely demonstrably are not competent in and should not be speaking publicly about. You should not be doing this, Gillian. This is criminal negligence on your part.
There's no way around this, guys.
Yes, there is. Facts, actual science, the actual objective reality in which we find ourselves, Gillian. Nothing you have said is remotely valid at all in this video.
There's no type of food. There's no...
Wrong.
Cutting out meat. Cutting out this.
You don't want to do that.
Cutting out that. We can have a conversation about that stuff.
No, we can't, Gillian, because you don't have the intelligence to have such a conversation. I've done a review very recently on a video of yours where you actually came on in a short video and said ketogenic approaches are no good because people's bodies are made out of fats, proteins and carbohydrates, and if you don't eat carbohydrates, you'll be starving your body of carbohydrates. Never heard of gluconeogenesis, for fuck's sake? And you say you want to have a discussion with people at a professional level about biochemistry? Are you stoned? Or do you just expect that anyone that wants to listen to you must be? For goodness sake, love, get a grip.
With regard to health, right? We can debate what combination of macronutrients, which are protein, are the healthiest, and what types of are better than others. And I promise you, it's really all come down to
Fuck is going on with this fucking sound system? Behave, you bastard fucking thing.
common sense. Now,
Common sense, says Gillian Michaels. Common sense, she says. The same Gillian Michaels that says the law of thermodynamics, instead of stipulating which of the 4 laws she's talking about, she then goes on to just assume that because she's invoked the magical law of thermodynamics, that she doesn't actually need to understand the thing or actually know what the thing even fucking says. She can then completely misrepresent what it says and then write some numbers on the back of an envelope that she got off some fucking calculator online and then say ridiculous shit like, it doesn't matter what you eat in terms of your macros, it's all about calories though, and you better exercise some more if you want to lose weight. Fuck me, not a single thing correct, valid, or of utility to a real living human being wanting to change their body composition in a meaningful way. Not a single thing correct. And that's why, Jillian, your professional practice has been hitherto a complete destitute failure. That's why every single person you have coached on that ridiculous fucking television program has put all the weight that they lost during the period of the program back on with fucking interest. Because you do not know what you're talking about. You have misguided those people criminally. Criminal negligence, Jillian. What's next?
only hack, if you will, would be something like keto. And what's happening with keto is you're not starving the body of calories, right? You're not creating a calorie deficit, you're creating a carbohydrate deficit.
No, you can't have a deficit of something that you don't require any of ever. The exact requirement nutrition-wise for human beings to consume exogenous carbohydrates, Jillian, is not 1 single gram ever in their life. 0. Okay? So it's not a deficit.
So the body goes into a state of emergency. Sorry.
No, it's nothing of the sort. The body is absolutely metabolically designed to function in that state. It's evolved in us over 4.5 million years at least. It's well and truly entrenched. It is a perfectly functional metabolic pathway that occurs under certain circumstances for a reason. And there's nothing in it whatsoever that would determine that there's an emergency of any kind going on. Fucking ridiculous.
Sorry, that's just... And it will rip through fat, your liver will, to create ketones.
Yes.
Which will act as a type of fuel.
Fuel, yes. Not a type of fuel, fuel. In the same way that carbohydrates and free fatty acids mostly are fuel. They break down to acetyl coenzyme A as the first step to feeding into the energy production pathways. And ketone bodies are basically just acetyl coenzyme A units stuck together and transmuted very quickly from place to place around the body in the blood. So yes, a fuel source.
Now, if it works, you'll lose weight. And if you
Well, we can't have that, Jillian, for goodness sake, can we?
have any kind of insulin-related health condition, it will help, right? Because you're not
Yes.
eating any carbs. So your insulin levels are very low.
Not necessarily. Protein is gluconeogenic, Jillian. Okay?
You can do the exact same thing by eating less and moving more.
No, you can't. False.
You can lose weight, you can reverse type 2 diabetes, you can reverse PCOS, all the insulin-related health conditions with none of the side effects.
There are no side effects, no negative side effects whatsoever of ketogenic lifestyles, Gillian. None at all.
So the thing with keto is that you have to look at the entire picture.
Yes, you do, Gillian. And that's where you fall flat on your stupid, ignorant face.
So how much is that taxing your liver? How much is it
Not at all. Ketogenic lifestyles do not tax your liver.
taxing your thyroid?
It does no such thing if it's appropriately planned and put together. The thing that most people get wrong on a ketogenic approach to life is they think the goal is to be in ketosis all the time, and the more the better. And they avoid protein, which is a mistake, Gillian. That will lead to problems.
How much is it taxing your kidney?
It's not at all.
How is it changing the pH balance of your body?
It isn't at all. That's under close homeostatic control at all times, right up to and including the point immediately before someone dies, Gillian. Okay? Once your pH starts to go meaningfully off, it means you are going to die. Okay? So, nonsense. Absolute fucking nonsense.
Because, I mean, when you're in a state of ketosis, you
Yes.
can become acidotic, right?
Yes, if you have an extremely high level of ketones, which will only occur in serious and uncontrolled type 1 diabetes or very, very serious type 2 diabetes. Your video is not about that population. Your video is a generalized statement about how someone should approach their weight loss. It's an inappropriate, nonsensical, scaremongering thing you've got going on here with ketones and ketoacidosis. People have really good homeostatic mechanisms to deal with this in general. Okay?
Right? Which means acetone, like at the nail salon?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything of the sort. For goodness sake. You don't even understand the basic biochemistry of ketone-induced acidosis. And you think acetone is an acid. No, it's another ketone body. It's one of the 3 major ketone bodies that are produced by the human body. Happens to be the volatile one. The one that actually doesn't, if anything, lead to acidosis, precisely because it is volatile. You fucking ignorant person. You ridiculous charlatan.
It's making that stuff. It can affect your mood. Like, there are a ton of studies that show. Plus,
A ton of studies. Well, have you got a ton of studies there cited underneath this video, Jillian, or are you going to give us any citations to any tons of studies? Tons of studies that show what, by the way? Because there aren't.
Maybe a diet that's real high in animal protein, right? Which is too much iron. And
No, there are no studies that show any such thing occurring either, Jillian. False.
that creates more oxidative stress.
No, nonsense.
It's bad for your telomeres. Like, there's a host
No, nonsense. Rubbish.
of other things that happen when you do that to your body. So
Nonsense, Gillian. Absolute garbage. All of those things are false, demonstrably false. None of those things are scientifically backed assertions. You have taken a couple of studies reductionist fashion out of their context there, and you've applied a cause and effect relationship to something that has been studied mostly in a reductionist fashion in a lab situation in isolated tissues. The human body has been functioning perfectly well in a properly designed ketogenic lifestyle, i.e. a species-appropriate, species-specific diet, for 4.5 million years at least. It is not a dangerous state of being at all. Jesus.
yes, you will lose weight. And yes, it will help with things like type 2 diabetes, but it creates a host of other issues.
Nonsense, Gillian. Absolute nonsense. Garbage. It does no such thing.
Nobody's talking about. So I'm going to tell you, let's stick with simple science.
Simple science, yes. How many laws of thermodynamics are there, Gillian? And what do any of them say? Also, science would tell you that a mean value for a population on some online calculator will have an error around it, quite a massive one actually for individual differences. Actual scientists don't write things on the back of envelopes and expect to be taken seriously, especially ones that start out with pencils that they haven't checked beforehand. Actual scientists understand that you don't need to exercise to control your body composition at all. Actual scientists understand that the calorie is a measurement of heat energy and nothing else. Actual scientists understand that thermodynamics does not apply in the way that you're applying it to a human being in any way, shape, or form. Also, actual scientists understand where their areas of expertise are and where they are not, and they stay in their fucking lane, Jillian. Okay? Simple science, good.
Weight loss, right? And let's say calories in, calories out.
False, wrong, nonsense, garbage, anti-science of the highest order. All that does is point to your vast ineptitude and your destitution of competence and your criminal negligence in trying to put that forward as a valid idea, because it fucking isn't.
Common sense.
Common sense, Gillian, is the thing you're lacking. Hugely, vastly, obviously, patently.
Food choices for your health, right? And that means, like, you know what common sense is.
Yes, I do, Gillian, very, very well. You unfortunately do not at all. You clearly have no idea what common sense is. Ooh, by the way. That's interesting, isn't it?
You know that maybe a turkey sandwich on whole grain bread with lettuce, tomato, maybe a piece of cheese, maybe not. You're trying to save those calories because you're trying to lose weight. And
yeah, hold the lettuce, hold the bread, hold the tomato, have the chicken breast.
Mustard is going to be...
No, mustard is contraindicated. Stay right away from mustard.
a heck of a lot better than a drive-through. Like, you know...
Sure. But that's not the point here.
this stuff.
At all.
Okay? Common sense.
Yes, common sense, Gillian. Like, not making that analogy right there because it's completely irrelevant to this video. And if anything, it's another reason to actually dismiss what you're saying here. Because what you're basically saying is that all calories are the same, and all you have to do is count how many of them somehow that you've consumed somehow, and then also somehow gauge how much you're expending and get that right as well by some fucking miracle. And job's good and problem solved now. You idiot. You absolute fucking moron.
I promise you, it will work, guys.
It doesn't fucking work. That's the whole point, Jillian. Unless you vastly, grossly undereat, and that is not sustainable, nor healthy, nor a good idea. Okay?
It will work.
No, it fucking won't work, Jillian.
It's worked for me my entire adult life.
No, it fucking clearly hasn't, Jillian. At all. Maybe you've controlled your body composition by vastly, grossly over-exercising, but you haven't counted a damn thing. You haven't measured your energy intake, and you haven't measured your energy expenditure either. Those two things are impossible outside of a very, very technically put together laboratory situation with very, very expensive equipment and actual scientists. Okay?
It's worked for everyone, all the before and after.
False. Let's have a look at all your clients from the biggest loser, shall we, Jillian? And let's see how those people have tracked over time. You managed to get a short-term change in their weight on a weighing scale by vastly, grossly over-exercising and vastly, grossly underfeeding these people for a short period of time. That's all you achieved. You are a ridiculous charlatan. You are a criminal misanthropist. You are a dangerous crackpot, Jillian. You're completely out of your depth. You're utterly unqualified to speak publicly in this area, and you should stop. Pretty straightforward, really.
After transformations you see on my website, for my app, all that crap.
Yeah, crap, exactly, Jillian. All that crap, all that marketing crap you've got going on around yourself. None of it's actually based in fact.
That's what they're doing.
No, it fucking isn't what they're doing, Jillian.
Eating smart.
No, they're not. If they're following your advice, they're doing anything but eating smart.
They're moving more. They're getting healthy.
All right, kiddies. There you have it. Gillian Michaels. Not the first fucking clue whatsoever. Ridiculous, dangerous, contraindicated, stupid advice from a charlatan. Follow whoever you like, boys and girls, at the end of the day, but do it on the basis of having an understanding of how bad this advice is. Okay? Glad you could join me. Join me next time when someone else will be wrong on the interwebs. Because that doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon, does it, boys and girls? See you then.